The 742 Coffee Cast is your ultimate destination for insightful conversations, thought-provoking ideas, and innovative strategies in St. Cloud Area School District. Your host is Director of Community Engagement and Communications, Tammy DeLand. Grab a cup of coffee and join us. Hello and welcome to Coffee Cast. I'm so excited you're both here today. We have Krisi Lain and Rick Larson, who are veteran school counselors extraordinaire, I might say. And I'm just going to let each of you introduce yourselves and talk about like how long you've been in the district, you've been doing this work, and kind of riding the 742 waves.
You're the most veteran.
Oh my gosh. And I think veteran is another word for old. So yes, that is true. Not quite, yeah. Well, I've been in the district about 35 years. In fact, this is my last year. I am actually retiring, but I started back out in 1989 at ALC. I was there for 10 years, and then I have been at Tech ever since.
Which is where I met you.
Exactly. I know. Such good friendships.
So for myself, this was my first school counseling job, Apollo.
Wow.
I got the job in 1999 as I was finishing up my master's at St. Cloud State, and I have been there ever since. So yeah, 25 years going at Apollo High School, and it's unbelievable. It doesn't seem like that long, but then you think about all the people that have come and gone and staff and all those kinds of things. It's
all those graduates.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And then to have 20-year-old reunion classes. I've had this the last couple of years, like, hey, what would you think about coming to our, and it's like, what, you graduated 20 years ago?
It's a little humbling, isn't it, Rick?
It's very humbling. And I need more things to make me humble. So
bring you in line.
There's that.
So your entire career at Apollo?
Yes.
Amazing. And so did I miss this? How many years at ALC and then how many at Tech?
10 at ALC and then 25 at Tech.
Wow. Amazing.
And I tell you, I loved both places. They were just amazing and taught me so much.
You guys are amazing. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to talk about may seem like, what? You're going to wonder why I'm asking this question. But the question is, what does a school counselor do? Believe it or not, people wonder.
Exactly what our program trained us to do, right, Krisi? Exactly what the master's program, those classes.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I think a better thing to say is, what does a school counselor not do?
Uh-huh.
And that, I think, is what is so fun about our job, is just all the different duties and being able to see kids in so many different lights, I think, from academic to college and career to social emotional.
Maybe a better question is, what's your average day look like? What do you do in a day?
When I first got into it, and Tony Back is a great mentor for me when I first got to Apollo, and she just retired not too long ago, but she told me right away, at the high school level, you wear so many hats. At first, I'm like, I don't know what that means. But then I was like, oh, okay, I get it. There's never a typical day. There's a typical time of year quite a bit, because it just depends, like the start of the year. It's all about scheduling. It's all about getting kids orientated. It's all those kinds of things. Then there's testing season that gets in there, and you know what's going to be happening when that's happening in your time. But you just really, you never know what's going to be coming to your door, or what you're going to see in the hallway or whatever. And what teachers are referring a student down for whatever's going on that day. It's awesome. But, and sometimes I like to plan a day to where it's like, this is what I want to get done today. Right.
How's that work out for you?
And once in a while, it happens that way, but no, you need to go with where the needs are. And that's kind of what happens.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it, because again, we have our duties and then we have what the needs are of that day. with with those students. And I think counselors are unique because, yes, we're part of the teacher bargaining unit and such. And yet the teachers sometimes see us as aligning more with administration. So I think but we're not exactly. But I think we're like a liaison between teachers, between administrators. We work so closely with parents, with students, with community members. I just think it's such a unique role that I think is so different than others.
I'll lead you a little bit on this one. I know that I've had conversations before talking with a parent, for example, describing what you're doing, mentioning scheduling of classes, like shocks some people. What? That's what a guidance counselor does there. And the answer is yes. What you said, Krisi, all of the above. It is responding to the immediate need of the kid on a given day, as well as, oh, you have to graduate from high school. It's all of those things. And I think that's what's really important for listeners is to get a good idea of just how both wide and deep those job duties are. And Rick, you mentioned a lot of it is seasonal. So, hey, it's May. What's going on?
Oh my, nothing really. I'm kind of bored with May, right? It's such an exciting time in May. There's a lot of things going on, of course, with the right now, the present day, and getting these seniors where they need to be and finishing strong. But we also have one foot into next year too, because we're doing a lot of figuring out schedules for next year, how that master is going to work, getting new students enrolled and just looking at, okay, how's this going to be? Having orientation nights going on and meeting with those 8th grade families and that kind of stuff. So, and AP testing is going on right now. So there's a good couple weeks of that is
scholarship program.
How about the scholarship and awards night at both schools, which for me, I am so grateful that I get to have that as one of my duties, because every counselor, we split it up too. There's one's in charge of the scholarship night, one's in charge of ACT each year, one's in charge of AP testing. And, all those different things too that are in our umbrella that, well, we've got to have one go-to person for those things. And I mean, the honor of working with community members and families. There's so many reasons for all these scholarships that come about that people want to support and generously support our students in our district. And it's so awesome to have those conversations, whether it's a family that has a family member die and wants to make sure that they remember them in a powerful way that's going to support students, or businesses that are like, hey, we want to give back. I just love that part of that whole night.
I've been to those scholarship nights, and there's smiles and there are tears. It is powerful.
It is.
It really is.
It totally is. And it's so awesome. And I remember getting a scholarship when I was in high school. I know it's hard to imagine, but I was able to attend the scholarship night at my high school. At the time, I'm going to school, but I remember distinctly that it felt like for me, I don't know if this is the right term, but I wanted to make sure my parents were proud of me as I was going on to college, but I was on the hook for this organization or this individual that gave this scholarship. I need to be doing well in college for them too. So it's powerful in that way too. And so I always remember that when kids are getting these scholarships and using them to make school possible.
Krisi, you've seen a lot of graduates.
Oh my gosh.
So, how many?
I don't even know. Do the math. I'm not a math major.
Do the math.
I said we didn't have to do math.
I
know. Sometimes I lie. What is it like to see that one? And you've had hundreds and hundreds of students, but I know that this happens. So what is it like to have your eye on that 9th grader and see them cross that stage come May? Can you describe it?
It is amazing just to see the growth, because they come in as 9th graders, either from South or from some of the other surrounding schools. And they're so young. I mean, they look like babies. I mean, just
that first year.
I mean, and their eyes are wide open, like, wow, I'm in high school. And we kind of have to teach again how to do school within the high school, but also, just for them to know that every single class that you are in counts for your graduation. It's very different than what middle school and elementary, what they're used to. That
New ballgame.
Exactly. Yeah. That if you fail a class, that not necessarily just move on. Once you fail a class, then you have to make that class up. So it's either you retake it if you're a senior, or you go to night school, do credit recovery, all of that. So I think that's probably the biggest transition for our ninth graders, is really seeing the seriousness of their education and how, them going to class and doing their work is going to affect that diploma.
So once they cross that stage, then 4 years later, we're talking celebration, right?
Oh my gosh.
The high fives are real.
Yes, it is like night and day. And I don't know about you, Rick, but you just get so close to your students. Oftentimes we call them our kids, because we do get to follow them 10th through 12th grade, since we have a ninth grade counselor the last couple of years. And it's just pretty darn amazing.
It sounds like after all these years, high school graduation day is still a pretty big highlight.
It is. It's huge. It's, all those kids and all those relationships and what it took for these students to get there. And you see the ones with they got the red, white, and blue cords, and they got the gold cords and things like that. And then some, though, that really stick with you on like how you got to this day and how proud that family is with what you had going on. That, for me, is the most like, wow, that just, giving them that high five, that nothing feels better.
The first generation graduates.
You bet.
Is amazing.
Yes. Rick, I have to say that I remember an Apollo graduation. Tell me I didn't dream this up, because I have a really strong memory of you being on that stage, like playing some rock music.
Oh.
Did I make that up?
What? There's been a few. I mean, I had the honor of being able to be a speaker for graduation.
Oh, that was your speaker year.
And so there was that. So I don't know if that was that one, Tammy. I decided to like go with this theme of dance like nobody's watching. That's what I did. So I gave them an example. And so I pulled out all my dance moves and I queued up a song. Nobody else knew that I was going to do it besides the sound guy. And this year it was at Hollenbeck. Still for that.
Back in the day.
Nobody knew. This was back in the day, back when I had less chance of pulling a hammy. But I danced around that whole stage. I think the school board members that were sitting there were like, what is going on? And that kind of thing.
Oh,
but,
so then they changed the rules after that year. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. They call it the Rick Larson something. No, I think I don't know. But that was so fun to just kind of surprise the kids that way and do that.
So maybe you just described the best part of your job, but I did want to ask that. What's the best part of your job?
There's so many.
I mean, the first word that comes to mind is relationships, though, for me. I feel like we're in like Krisi had said before, we're in a position where we really get to know families and parents and students, also with our coworkers. I feel like I get to know pretty much everybody in the building, teachers, custodians, and kitchen. I just feel so grateful for those relationships, because that's what it takes to make that positive high school experience for all those students, is that when people know each other, when the staff know each other, and like a kid struggling over here, if a teacher doesn't know me or what I'm about,
right?
Well, they're not going to like give me an email or like, hey, Larson, could you maybe check in with this kid or that kind of thing. So I think those relationships serve such a purpose, but they're my favorite part of getting to know people. It's just, I love that. So that'd be what I'd say.
So maybe the question for you is, what are you going to miss most?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I know I had to write something up for my retirement on what I'm going to miss. And I did put those relationships with my colleagues. Like Rick said, they're just priceless, and it takes a village to raise these kids and to get them across that stage.
Yeah.
And my 35 years in District 742, both schools that I've worked at, I mean, the staff has just been top notch, loving, caring, educated. Yeah. So I think that, besides my kids. In fact, some of my students who are juniors just say, Miss Lain, can you just stay one more year? And my seniors this year, but that's why I told my juniors, I said, well, my seniors said that last year, so I did stay one more year. So I said, if I don't go now, I probably will never go.
Got to cut the cords.
Got to cut the cord. Yes.
So the flip side is, what's the biggest challenge, do you think, of your job?
It's very stressful. I think because you're juggling so many things at one time. And I think it's just part of our nature not to let any of those balls drop.
Right.
You really see this more than a job. These are kids' future. These are kids' lives in what you're dealing with. So I think sometimes it's hard to leave things at work and not necessarily bring home with you. And I think our high caseloads, if you have 300 kids on a caseload, you want to be able to touch each one of those kids in some sort of way throughout their 4 years. So I struggle with that have I done enough with all of them?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's my struggle.
That's well said, for sure. I echo that. There's things like any job that kind of make you crabby. But they're not like, I mean, that's just how it is. That they're annoying or some things like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this paperwork, or I don't want to do this data entry type stuff or those kinds of things. But I think it's that they're just hard things that you become involved with when you are working with students that have high needs and different things going on. And so it's tough to leave that at school. I was told early on, as I got going at Apollo and things like that, and my wife is like, you got to leave some of that stuff in the garage or something. Because there's those things where you're working with a kid whose parent's dying, and you know that parent well, but you are doing your best to like be there for that student. And then after they leave your office, just like needing time for yourself too. So just some of those kinds of things are trying to be strong and be that counselor support, but also being able to be like, I suppose it's like you got to practice what you preach though too, and take care of yourself too. But yeah, there's just a lot of hard things that we see in education.
You do hard things every day.
Yep, everybody does.
That is your job.
In our job.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, since you're both veteran counselors.
Old.
Okay. Can you talk about, and I think you went there a little bit, Rick, can you talk about how the job's changed? Because it has, right? Over time. What do you see? And maybe you just want to pick one thing. What do you see as maybe one of the bigger changes over the years?
Well, I think just the change of population within the St. Cloud area. I have grown so much within our EL population, my knowledge, my geography, number one. But just being able to experience other cultures immensely, I think. I'm just some of our conversations with parents and students, but just being able to ask ourselves as a district and as a school, how do we program for kids who don't look like us and who do not come from Minnesota? And I think our district has
maybe don't speak our language.
Do not speak our language, correct. And I just think our district has put that as a priority. And just the smiles on the students and the parents' faces, because they just value education so much and are so appreciative of what the schools are doing. So I would say in my career, that's probably the biggest growth. But I also think it's the same. Some of the stuff is the same concerns, the same issues, but at a greater impact, with inflation the way that it is, with the socioeconomic status of families, compared to 35 years ago. So I think just the change in the world
yes
creates those things.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, when I came on in 99, we had 2 amazing ESL teachers at Apollo, Judy Germanson and Sharon Larson. And they were our 2 ESL teachers is what we call it at the time.
And was that at Apollo or for the whole district? Wasn't that the whole district? It was housed at
I'm
Apollo?
not sure.
No, I think it was Apollo because I think that same year we had like 15 at Tech. So that was
Not staff, kids.
students.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we had Sharon and Judy were working at Apollo for a long time. And I guess I can't recall. I can just know what was happening at Apollo. And it was mainly Vietnamese and Laotian students
Back
were
then, yeah.
mostly who made up our EL population. And now as we go to 2024, I mean, I think we have maybe 11 EL staff teachers, that department. It's amazing the diversity of the different students that we have from different backgrounds and the power of this district getting those foundational English skills and all the rest of math, social science, all those things. And just to see that happen from the beginning of students coming into our district that don't have any English at all or very little to being able to get a high school diploma down the road. So it's that, Krisi, is a great point. That has definitely been a big change that I've seen. But like you said, like kids are still kids.
Yep.
They are. They're still going through those developmental stages that we got well versed in our master's program, Erickson stages of development, all those things.
I'm taking notes.
But they're still that. There's still, how do you work with this impulsivity? How do you work with this identity searching things and trying to figure out who they are and all those kinds of things? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if we were to wrap up and glean from your great veteran wisdom.
What?
I'm feeling pressure coming on. I don't know.
Are you stressed? No. What advice would you leave a student? And you can pick. It's May. So you could say for a senior, for someone graduating and going on, or maybe, Krisi, you talked a lot about that transition year, that 9th grade. And we didn't talk about bar. That would be one of the big changes too, of how we take 9th graders now and we kind of embrace them, right? We bring them together as a whole. So maybe the advice would be to that transitional 9th grader, but what advice would you want to leave? What great wisdom.
Oh, man.
Wow.
A shiny.
There's just so much. There's wisdom that's just overflowing. Isn't there, Krisi?
Just pick one pearl. Rick, one.
I would say find something that you're passionate about, because I would bet that there's a career that's attached to your passion. And oftentimes in 9th grade, kids may want to be an NBA player, or, you hear that a lot. Okay, but what's associated with that? What would be your plan B? If that's your passion, let's then talk about exercise science. Let's talk about anything within that sports training career. So really just look at your passions and take advantage of everything that this district has to offer. We have so many college in the school classes, post-secondary options, AP exam. I mean, just every opportunity for kids to be able to explore what they would like to do in the future.
Totally. And
that's a good one.
That was
Rick, are you intimidated?
very wise.
That was good.
Well, probably because I'm 10 years older than you.
Yes.
I'm sure that's why.
She's a bit more veteran.
Yeah.
Than I am.
I'm veteran.
She's going on to retirement number 2.
We're going to call her.
That's good stuff.
We're going to call her platinum.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
I don't know if I do.
I love that. That's awesome, because we want these students to have momentum. We want them to have this bridge and some kind of trajectory and inertia, you might say, so they can kind of pivot. It's like, I've got all these things that I've learned and was exposed to in high school, and being able to hopefully develop some of those things into a passion. I'm not going to argue with that. That's good stuff, Krisi. I would add to that this whole idea of figuring out how to be okay with who you are. That's good stuff. Figure out who you are, and that is good, and that you're awesome, and that your gifts are uniquely yours. Do things with them. Whatever that might be, but being able to have that sense and that self-awareness.
As you both know, I'm a former high school teacher, and I agree with you, by the way, 100% kids are kids. Like I was recently working with a teen panel about a week ago, and oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And they were so incredible. And they were in a room of 100 adults, and they just, blew the ceiling off. They were just tremendous. When I think of change and what I've seen over the years, one of the things I worry about with youngsters, with young kids, is it seems to me like the pressures going out there, whether you're going to college or whether you're going in a career pathway, it seems to me that there just seems to be so much pressure. You don't apply to one school, you apply to 5, and you have your backup school. You're going to explore all these career pathways. It just seems to me like there's a lot of pressure on teenagers now. Is that a perception, or do you see kids struggling with that?
I think there is that pressure. I think that we have set up in some ways, for some reason, they're supposed to kind of have it figured out as they get done with high school. And as I recall, I didn't go into anything that I was thinking I was going to go into after I got done with high school. But I had that momentum. I had that trajectory to be able to pivot as I was figuring out what was at the next level. But I do think that there's some of that like pressure that they do need to have it kind of figured out. I'm not sure where that comes from, or if it's always kind of been there and it's just ramped up a little bit. But I don't know. I see it a bit.
And I think that's just part of being an 18-year-old almost graduate. What I do like, though, nowadays is college means many things, that it just isn't, I'm going to a 4-year college. Mm-hmm. We know with the student loan, with the debts, all of that there's so many occupations out there that require anywhere from a 1 to a 4-year to, of course, graduate school. So I think kids have not necessarily more options, but I think people are more supportive of any of those options compared to, I think, 35 years ago when I was in college, that it was just kind of expected. Once you graduated, you went to college. You went to a 4-year. And I actually started out in an accounting major, and I came out.
What? How did I not know this?
Yes. Because that's really all that I knew in high school, just coming from a really small school. But with all the exposure of different things in high schools, this time that I think kids have better ideas, different ideas.
Even being able to know what they don't like.
Right.
That's where that exploration really comes in, right?
Yeah.
I think try more than one thing.
Right. And the biggest message is just do something, because just graduating from high school, I don't know, how well of a paying job that you are going to get just right out of high school, but that doesn't mean that you have to go to a 4-year college either. It may mean that you go to an apprenticeship, you go to a 1-year program, you go to a 2-year program.
And there's a lot of exciting stuff going on there, isn't there? Our community is just kind of bustling. Our business community, our manufacturing community, higher ed, it just seems like this community is willing to take those teens and say, try us out. Yes. Come over here and take a look. I think it's a smart economic move for business, but boy, does it support kids. Well, I would say that our teenagers are really lucky to have you two in your veteran counselor chairs.
We are lucky to have them. I mean, seriously, with Yeah.
Well, that, and I mean,
the best gig ever.
Krisi would say that, yeah, I have gained so much more than I've given from the students that have been in my life, without a doubt. I have learned so much from all the different situations and gifts these kids have, for sure. That's how I feel.
You guys are going to make me cry. But speaking of gifts,
we have gifts.
Yes. I have gifts for you for being on the show today.
What the what?
Your very
Look at
own
this.
Coffee Cast.
Oh my gosh. I feel like a celebrity.
There you go.
Tammy.
I feel like
you
I'm on
shouldn't have.
Jimmy Kimmel show or something.
Oh, yeah.
With water.
Do you have a great podcast idea? Submit your idea to communications@isd742.org. And thank you for listening to 742 Coffee Cast, the best place to stay informed and be inspired by St. Cloud Area School District.